In the headlines tonight, the 35th AU Summit has come to a close today. Prime Minister Abiy suggests robust intra-Africa tourism development for cultural exchange and economic growth. Good evening to you all. A very warm welcome to ETV News. I am Gurum Tariku. Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed talked to several leaders of African nations on the sidelines of the AU Summit. Abiy Ahmed has discussed with Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari and President of Zimbabwe Emmerson Mnangagwa on bilateral and regional issues. Following his discussion on the margins of the 35th organization of the Assembly of Heads of State and Government of the African Union, which was kicked off on Saturday, Abiy tweeted good discussions with President Buhari and President Mnangagwa on bilateral and regional issues. Abiy further stated the leaders are committed to strengthening collaborations. Abiy also discussed with African Development Bank Group President Akinwumi Adesina on Ethiopia's development aspirations and ways of strengthening partnership. He tweeted their discussions on the sidelines of the AU Summit 2022 explored Ethiopia's development aspirations and ways of strengthening partnership. The sideline meeting with Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta and President of Senegal, Macky Sall, is said to be an indication of the leaders' steadfast commitment to strengthening collaboration on areas of mutual interests, Abiy said. The Prime Minister also discussed with presidents of Djibouti, Somalia, Sierra Leone, and Zambia on the margins of the 35th AU Summit yesterday on regional and continental issues. Ethiopia has congratulated all African countries and Ethiopians on the successful completion of the 35th AU Summit. The 35th AU Summit has come to a close today. Shifara Ulaka has sent the following report from AU headquarters here in Addis Ababa.
The 35th AU Summit has come to a close today. That's Sunday. And for almost a week now, the East African nation, that is Ethiopia, and its capital Addis Ababa has been brimming with African leaders and high-ranking government officials discussing issues of continental sphere and common concerns. And against all odds, Ethiopia has been successfully hosting this continental event, beating all the odds of tarnishing the image of the East African nation that this country is not capable of hosting this summit. However, Ethiopia has once again notched it up, successfully hosting and holding this continental event. The African heads of state and governments have been discussing various issues of common concern, such as Agenda 2063, Continental Free Trade Area, that's AFCFTA, and other issues, as well as challenges such as the coronavirus, peace and security, and unconstitutional government change and coup d'etats. And after closed session, the African heads of state and governments have come up with decisions.
Excellencies, heads of state and government, first ladies, heads of state, excellencies,
intra-Africa tourism development can serve as an engine for cultural exchange, understanding, economic growth and collaboration between African tourism destinations. This is a remark made by Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed yesterday during courtesy dinner for AU leaders and diplomats taking part at the 35th AU Summit. Jerusalem Bitsa has more on this.
At the event held yesterday night at the Friendship Square in honor of African heads of state and government, as well as their delegations attending the 35th ordinary session of the AU Assembly, Prime Minister Abiy highlighted Ethiopia's commitment in hugely investing on tourism. In this regard, Friendship Square and Otto Park Riverside projects, Dine for Nation projects are testimonies of the country's tourism development aspirations, the Premier said.
We are gathered tonight in this earthly paradise that is Friendship Square, which signals a prosperous future that all Africans are deserving of. Built in a short one-year period, as part of the large beautifying Shaggar project aimed at treating the rivers of Addis Ababa, developing riverside economies, and opening up green space in the heart of the city.
Prime Minister Abiy stated that Ethiopia has been investing in natural attractions and ecotourism destinations in a number of areas in the country.
Friendship Square is the epitome of our urban tourism development aspirations. The seat of the African Union and your capital, Addis Ababa, has been undergoing great transformation over the past 3 years to evolve into a metropolitan befitting of the name New Flower. Further into the money arteries of the nation, we have been capitalizing on natural endowments to develop ecotourism destination in different parts of the country.
Abiy also urged the leaders to stimulate the continent's tourism, which has been strongly hit by COVID-19 pandemic. This is fundamental to catalyze inter-Africa tourism and cultural exchange and economic integration of the continent.
Most African tourism sectors have been hard hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. Sustaining the sector and later service industries can be supported by mobilizing domestic and intra-Africa tourism. There is great opportunity in intra-Africa tourism to be catalyzed for cultural exchange, understanding, economic integration, and to grow collaboration between African destinations.
The Premier further expressed his gratitude to those African delegations that have arrived in Addis Ababa for the 2022 AU Summit, and he reiterated that Ethiopia always welcomes them warmly.
The 35th AU Summit deliberated on issues that threatened the peace and stability of the continent. The closed session also dwelt on COVID-19 and the role of African Development Bank in accelerating intra-Africa trade. Take a look.
The Ethiopian Ministry of Foreign Affairs briefed media Sunday on various agendas of AU's closed sessions. According to the ministry, the Assembly discussed the economic impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic and recovery strategies, including plans to increase vaccine production and the vaccination rate in the continent.
There was a discussion. There was also a report on what Africa has done so as to overcome the challenges of COVID-19 and what measures have been taken so far. There is an intention by different African countries actually to produce vaccinations which will be commensurate to the gravity of this COVID-19. And it was seen in the report that Africans should support each other and should help each other so as to overcome this challenge, which has negative impacts on various aspects of their life. It has negative impact on the economy, economic development, social cohesion, and even it could be a call for instability.
The Assembly also deliberated issues that threatened the peace and stability of the continent, Dina said.
One was an agenda on peace and security, whereby the challenges of the peace and security in Africa had been discussed. The causes for the instability in different parts of Africa had been discussed, particularly the case of unconstitutional change of government, which had been recently seen, has been very much discussed. And the objective of this discussion was based on the report presented by the President Uhuru Kenyatta, and it's a lengthy report, it's a detailed report on the causes of instability and the challenges and the opportunities with regard to peace and stability in Africa. So the objective of the discussion is in view of looking for the way out of the instability.
Regarding socio-economic development issues of the continent, the 35th AU Assembly underscored the need to support the African Development Bank and accelerate inter-Africa trade in line with the objectives of the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement.
The third report that was presented was the report of the African Bank and Development Bank. This report was presented in view of supporting African integration through finance. The need for getting finance, for accumulating finance for African integration is imminent, and definitely that report has been also discussed in view of this objective.
The 35th Ordinary Session of the Assembly of Heads of State and Government of the African Union decided about different continental issues and get ended.
AU warns it has zero tolerance to any attempts of military takeover in the continent. African Union heads of state unequivocally condemned the resurgence of unconstitutional government changes in the continent. Gosho Melissa reports.
The 35th AU Summit of Heads of State discussed on various issues, but peace and security was one of the topmost agenda of the summit amid resurgence of coup in the continent. Briefing the media Sunday, African Peace and Security Commissioner said heads of state at the summit condemned unequivocally the resurgence of unconstitutional government changes in the continent.
Every African leader in the assembly has condemned unequivocally the pattern of, or the resurgence, or the cycle, or the wave of unconstitutional changes of government.
The commissioner explained that terrorism, radicalization, and complicated political transition are destabilizing factors that need serious intervention.
Is the phenomenal expansion of terrorism, violent extremism, and radicalization. All our regions now have to deal with this scourge. Two, some people have called it the resurgence of unconstitutional changes of government. As we speak, 4 of our member states have been suspended: Guinea, Mali, Sudan, and Burkina Faso. 3, we have complicated political transitions, meaning we have to tread carefully and engage our member states back to constitutional order.
He confirmed that AU had zero tolerance to any attempts of military takeover.
This assembly has placed it on record that they have zero tolerance for military adventurists. It is important that the media should know that none of our leaders is in any way justifying the trend. Have we had 4 countries in one calendar year, in 12 months, being suspended? Mali, Guinea, Sudan, and latest, Burkina Faso.
Every conflict situation in the continent was the agenda of the summit, the commissioner said.
Every conflict situation was on the agenda of the summit. Indeed, 32 of our leaders, heads of state and government, intervened on the dual agenda item of the report of the activities of the Peace and Security Council for the year 2021 and the state of peace and security in Africa. So the 5 regions of the continent, from the north to the south, east, west, central, were all covered.
AU has fully engaged in the matter to restore peace, and the leaders were also debated on issues of peace and security in general, including silencing the gun in the continent. He added,
"The tears of Africans is too dried out. The African Union has come about. The long dream of Pan-Africanism has come through, with much prospect in the future to do. So all Africans, let's work with our union. Africa wants to see peace, love and prosperity."
አስተሳሰብ የአዲስ ቃና ብስራት ታጥናፋጥናፍናኝ የአፍሪካችን ህብረት የአዲስ አስተሳሰብ የአዲስ ቃና ብስራት ታጥናፋጥናፍናኝ የአፍሪካችን ህብረት በልጆችሽ በዜጎችሽ ህልማቸው ተፈታ በአፍሪካችን ህብረት ምስረታ በአፍሪካችን ህብረት ምስረታ እንግዲህ አክትም እንግዲህ ይብቃ የልጆች አምባ ራብ ሰቆቃ ጦርነት ስደት የችግር ቀንበር ይወገድ ከአፍሪካ ምድር ይቅር በዓለም ስማችን እንግዲህ አክትም እንግዲህ ይብቃ
Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta says African countries need to continue keep malaria agenda on high priority. The president has briefed media on the African malaria progress today after discussion with heads of state and government in the 35th African Union Summit. Shagawi Mata reports.
The economic impact of malaria is estimated to cost Africa $12 billion every year. This figure factors in costs of healthcare, absenteeism, days lost in education, decreased productivity due to brain damage from cerebral malaria, and loss of investment and tourism. Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta said the campaign against malaria prevention, which is a priority agenda of next year's AU meeting, requires multi-sectoral advocacy, action and resource mobilization. Some African countries, including Kenya, have launched their national Zero Malaria campaign. Their countries have mobilized significant resource in kind support for the fight against malaria in 2021. Kenyatta said African countries' economic communities continued to keep malaria high on their regional agenda, and they are also deploying new mosquito nets to fight against malaria.
With respect to regional coordination, it is notable that our regional economic communities continue to keep malaria high on their regional agenda. Countries are enhancing cross-border collaboration and coordination, and the regional economic communities have mainstreamed the agenda for the war against malaria, including at heads of state, ministerial, as well as technical level. With respect to life-saving commodities, it is notable that countries are now deploying new mosquito nets and insecticides to address the threat of insecticide resistance.
Sustaining malaria is another essential health service for African countries to scale up financial resources to fight against the disease, the president added.
Sustaining malaria and another essential health service requires all of us to scale up financial resources. Indeed, as of June 2021, the Global Fund provided 56% of total funding for malaria services. The next replenishment of the Global Fund begins in 2022, and we urge our development partners to demonstrate global solidarity and increase their commitment to the Global Fund replenishment. Additionally, I also urged heads of state and government in Africa to support the advocacy efforts and to ensure that this replenishment is successful.
He concluded his report by saying that the war against malaria will be conquered and eradicated when African countries work together.
I think it is important to underscore that the war against malaria will be won by all of us working together. And in this regard, we invited you, the members of the press, to work with us as governments as we continue with this mission to conquer and eradicate this terrible disease. Help us to instill across our countries the clarion call of zero malaria starts with me, zero malaria starts with you.
Uhuru, who said he is proud that he launched the first national malaria youth army to fight malaria, urged his fellow heads of state to strengthen this initiative.
Colorful Cape Town is one of the most multiracial cities in the world. The city sits on South Africa's Cape Peninsula, where the waters of the Atlantic and Indian Oceans converge, and spectacular mountains tumble towards the sea. For decades, Cape Town has been buffeted too by the crosswinds of social upheaval. But just like those early ships, Cape Town had endured some of history's most turbulent waters and set course to an optimistic future. Cape Town's central area is situated in the City Bowl. This amphitheater-shaped area begins at the edge of Table Bay and is backed by the iconic 2-mile-long plateau of Table Mountain. Post-apartheid South Africa is often called the Rainbow Nation, and like a pot of gold at the end of that rainbow, diversity, transformation, and creativity shines out from the city's downtown streets, from its businesses, from its very walls. So come and savor the colors, hope, and freedom of Cape Town.
African journalists said some foreign countries exert undue pressure against African countries to promote their own national interest. The journalists told ETV African media need to work more on propagating the fact on the ground about Africa to the rest of the world. Preserving the Pan-African ideology and African cultural values to transcend to the posterity is fundamental, the journalists underlined. Hatamu Ashagri has compiled their views as follows.
So I don't think Ethiopia should get worried about what the Westerners say about it. But what they should do is to, evolve strategies, just like, because of the theme of this conference now, that we should look at how we can project ourselves to develop Africa in general.
I read a lot about Ethiopia, and I love the African culture. I love the Ethiopian people. I love the peaceful vibes I can get from people of Ethiopia. So what we need exactly now to focus about what's happening in the reality, and to help. I think to help about giving a real impression about what's happening. I love Ethiopia. We love the Ethiopian people. I love the culture. I love the bunna. I love the history, the history of Ethiopia. I've been to Ethiopia 10 times, and I travel in south and eastern and north, so I know a lot about Ethiopia.
But Ethiopia is his or her normal.
Now to a quick reminder of the headlines. The 35th AU Summit has come to a close today. The AU warns it has no tolerance to military takeovers in member states. Well, you have been watching ETV News. Thanks for joining us and have a pleasant night.